So this is going to be the ShareFile admin settings webinar. My name is Tepe Umeno. I'm a customer success engineer, and with me I've got Greg. Greg, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys. My name is Greg Horrocks. I'm also a customer success engineer here at ShareFile under Progress.
So for the agenda, we have file management, security configurations, the different customization options we have, and then just some overall best practices while using ShareFile. All right, let's get started with the demo then. This is my uh, demo ShareFile account. When you go to your login screen, you just want to go to, for example, tepe.sharefile.com. Yours is going to be whatever subdomain.sharefile.com, and the login page will look like this. And if you have admin credentials, it's going to first give you an option to put in your ShareFile credentials or use single sign-on if you have single sign-on configured. All right. Once you get logged into ShareFile, you're going to see this landing page, the dashboard. The first part I wanted to kind of show you was the personal settings, which can be found under here. And it just gives you a brief overview of what your account looks like, what kind of sign-in credentials you have available to you, whether it be the ShareFile credentials, the social logins, or even SSO logins and such. The first admin setting that I want to go over is going to be file settings. So if we go into advanced preferences on the left-hand side here, you're going to see file settings. And in the file settings, this is where you can determine what kind of login behaviors you have on the ShareFile account, as well as like the retention policy on files and such. So the first setting that I want to show you is the share settings here. Now, default, it's going to show the public link options, as well as the sign-in requirement options. Our recommendation is to disable the public link options. You don't have to, but that way, um, if you create any share links or download links within ShareFile, it's going to require a login in order to uh, get access to those files. Now, another setting we also have is going to be the default permissions here. So when your users are creating download links, there you're going to be able to set a default for those links. So for example, right now it has it as clients and employee users with login, but you can also just set it to just employee only login as well too. We also have a Outlook tool for quickly creating download links and upload links. And that's what this permission here is. So if, for example, if you had the anonymous or public link options available to you, then you'll see other default link options here as well too. But if you disable the public links, then email recipient is going to be the only option there. And then finally, we also have an option to set a expiration period on the download links. Now, expiration period on a download link isn't the same as the deletion policy on the ShareFile account. So this is just for the link itself.
And just to know, this is a maximum, so they could do it shorter. It's just
Yeah,
saying, hey, how far out can they keep this link active for? Yep.
right. And then we have basically the same kind of settings for upload links as well too. Now for upload links, I'll say um, having public links isn't really as much of a big deal. But again, if you needed to restrict access to the upload links, you have the option to do it as well too. And then again, you have the default permission sets here, and then the maximum expiration period for the links. And earlier I mentioned the retention policies. So retention policy is going to be the this is going to be the default retention policy on a folder. And what that means is when a folder is created and files are uploaded into those folders, it's going to automatically delete files within that folder after the set amount of period here, or set number of days here. Default retention policy, you can set it here. And again, like Greg said earlier, you can go in and modify the retention policy at the root level again. This is only setting the default retention policy.
And
Sorting, pretty strict.
that's for new folders going forward.
Yeah,
It's not going to go back to all of your folders and set a policy on there to delete files. It's only for once you set it here, moving forward, this will be the default setting.
right. And then sorting, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's just how the files are sorted in the folders. Versioning is how many versions of a file you can save. When you save multiple copies of a file in ShareFile, you're going to see a little blue icon next to the file where you can go in and retrieve the different versions. This is determining how many versions of that file you can save within ShareFile. We do also have a watermarking feature where if you are sharing a Word document or like a PDF, um, we can enable watermarking on the file to prevent unauthorized sharing of the documents. So that, for example, if you have the email setting here, it's going to put a watermark on the file with the email of the user who shared the documents. And you can also put in custom text here as well too. We also have co-editing or live editing using Microsoft Office. So if you're wanting to collaborate on documents within ShareFile, you can enable the editing here and then work with your colleagues on files or even clients. As long as they have the Microsoft Office licensing, you should be able to co-edit with them. All right, and that should be the overall file settings that we want to look over. The next one I wanted to cover is going to be about your storage. So in the storage tab, you're going to see the storage usage and storage zones. Storage usage is going to show you an overview of your users and how much data they are consuming within ShareFile. Um, just to give you an idea of who's using ShareFile the most and whether you want to notify the user that they're exceeding quotas and such too. Now the storage zones, if you have your own on-premise ShareFile solution, so like the storage zone controllers, then you'll see under customer managed zones, you'll see your storage zones in here. But for most users, it should be just the ShareFile managed storage, and you should see the different zones that are enabled on your account in this section right here. The next settings I want to talk about is going to be your security settings. So under security, we have all these different functions. The first one I want to cover is going to be your password requirement. So the requirements here that you see are going to be for your client users, or if you're not using single sign-on, then this is going to be the password requirements that you can set on your account. If you're using single sign-on, then this isn't going to apply to your employees. Okay, and in the login and security policies, you'll also see the two-step verifications here. So two-step verification allows you to require the two-factor for either clients, employees, or both. We also have an option to enable social sign-in. So now this is a new thing where if you have Google credentials, for example, and you want to use that to log into your ShareFile account, you can. The Microsoft and Apple social logins should be coming here in the future. Just be on the lookout for those. Auto remediation. So these are scenarios where ShareFile will look at the behaviors of employees or clients, and based on those activities, it will take preventative measures to protect your ShareFile account. And if you want to, you can disable these through this on off toggle here if needed. Account lockout configurations. This is again the number of login attempts a user can have before they're locked out of the ShareFile account and for how long they're going to be locked out. Terms and conditions and IP restrictions, we can enable those on your ShareFile account, but uh, get in touch with your customer success engineer or with ShareFile support in order to get those enabled. Authentication, there's going to be two settings here. The top one, the log inactive users after a certain period of time, that is going to be for browser sessions. So if a user has not been active on the ShareFile account for more than 15 minutes, let's say, then it's going to automatically log the user out. The re-authenticate after period, this is going to be for applications. So if they're using the ShareFile Outlook plugin or the ShareFile desktop application, this is the time period at which they'll be asked to authenticate back into those applications. Now, if you have single sign-on, this is where you can go in and configure it. As long as you have a SAML IDP provider, you should be able to configure this here. These are going to be the basic settings, and then here's the optional settings. So for example, if you're wanting to default to like Windows authentication, then you can do that here as well too. Next item, security alerts. So these are going to be alerts based on unusual behaviors from your employees or client users. And it notifies admins, employees, and clients based on the settings that you've selected here. You can also add distribution groups or employees by typing them into this add additional alternate contacts list here at the bottom. All right, the next one I want to talk about is going to be the super user group. The super user group is going to be a group of users that has access to all files and folders on the ShareFile account. So it's not the same as a admin permission. So think of somebody that may need to do an audit of the ShareFile account, then that's the kind of user that you will want to add here. And then finally, we also have quarantine files. So if you have files that have been marked for quarantine, they're going to show up in here as well.
Thanks, Tepe, for that. So what I'll do is I'll take over and we'll go through some customization, um, some branding, changing your account information, and then we'll go through some things to maximize your efficiency, and really focus on things that can save you some time when you're carrying out administrative tasks. So the first thing we'll take a look at is we'll go through some customization from the admin dashboard. So if we go into the settings, we'll go into admin settings, you'll be brought immediately into your admin overview. And this is going to show you your official account name, account ID, what plan you're on, and then it's also going to show your account owner. And this is where if, let's say, you wanted to move the ownership to another person, we do have the ability to reassign account owner here. And then you also get a snapshot of kind of your overall storage utilization. So customizing your actual account, we'll go into company account info, and we'll go into edit company branding. And so here you'll be able to change that actual account name. The account appearance, this is where you'll get into more granular customizations. Here's my page title. It's going to be what shows up in my browser tab when I'm logged into my account or any of your users logged into the account. If you click on the advanced options here at the bottom of the account appearance, you're going to get some more options here. And this really goes through each aspect of your account. From the header here at the top, you can use your own company logo, customize it with your organization's color schemes, whatnot, change the text color, accent color, and then you also have the ability to change how the login screen looks. So you do have the ability to change that larger image that shows up on the left-hand side, and then also change some of the colors that go with that as well. If you'd like to customize how the emails look from our notification system, you can change the header and footer text here and add a logo. So we'll touch on this a little bit later, but if the emails will be coming from our notification system, but you can at least customize those a little bit to your own company's branding. Going down here at the bottom, edit subdomains. So right now I'm logged into my subdomain, which is gregh.sharefile.com. So Greg H is the primary subdomain. If you wanted to add additional subdomains for your internal employees, or maybe you wanted to change it up, have a different subdomain for your external clients to log in, you do have the ability to add 2 additional subdomains here. As long as these aren't taken by another organization, you can have up to 3 total. Greg H here being my primary. So the next thing I want to take a look at for customization real briefly is our templates section. So templates are going to allow you to create standardized templates for your users to, whether they're creating projects or maybe information requests or a document request list within projects or electronic signatures. So I wanted to just briefly show this off. This is where you can upload a file to customize. Let's say you have an intake form or something that you have to send out to get signatures. This is going to be where you can generate that template, and then once you've generated it, you can share it out. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that. This is a fairly new section, and it will be growing in feature sets, but this is where they're going to show up on the left-hand side, templates. So the other customization I mentioned earlier with the email customization, putting custom branding in there. So if you want to be able to send out notifications from your own email system, we do have the ability to set custom SMTP, and that's going to be under the advanced preferences, email settings, and we have this SMTP server here. If you wanted to configure your organization's SMTP server, you can do that here, and notifications will then flow through your email server. If you wanted it to be, your clients to view it as something a little bit more official, it's coming from you than the ShareFile system. So that was the customization section. Let's move on to maximizing efficiency. So like I said, we'll take a look at a few things here for saving you time when you're carrying out administrative tasks. So the first thing we'll take a look at is folder templates. So within advanced preferences here, we have an option for folder templates. And essentially, a folder template is a structure of, it's a folder structure that you can build out that you're going to be able to use and link to folders throughout your ShareFile account. And the nice thing about folder templates is once you make changes to an actual template, those changes are replicated throughout the entire account where that folder template is linked to. So we'll create a quick folder template just to kind of show you how that works. We'll say webinar demo. So it's going to start off with the just a folder template itself. So if you wanted to add additional folders underneath, so we'll create a folder there. And if we wanted to create another top level folder, we could do that here by just going back to the top level, test folder 2. Now let's say if you wanted a nested folder or subfolder underneath one of these, you can simply click that, add folder, it's going to nest it under there. So once you have an actual structure built out that you like, we'll go ahead and say finish. And then to actually apply a folder template, we'll go into, let's go into a webinar folder here. Let's go ahead right in here. We'll go to Edit Advanced Folder Settings. And down here towards the bottom, there's going to be an option for Use Folder Template. And if we simply come in here and we say Webinar Demo and save, you'll see that it will populate this folder with those two folders I've created. And then also there should be, did it in the first one here, there's that nested folder. So anytime you want to make changes to that linked template, you just go back into the settings, advanced preferences, folder templates. You can make changes to it, and those will be reflected. If you wanted to remove a linked folder template, you could simply go back into that folder, go back into advanced, and then we'll remove that template association. And what that'll do is it'll just remove the link, but it'll keep the folders there. So if you had a lot of information that was accumulated in there, that's not going to go and delete them. So next thing we'll take a look at is distribution groups. So distribution groups are groups of users that can be used for adding a bulk list of users, giving them permissions to a certain folder. These can be managed through the web UI here, and a little bit we'll show you also our user management tool. Those can be managed through the user management tool as well if you have on-prem Active Directory linked to this. But essentially it's a group of users, right? And what we can do with that is if you wanted to create very specific groups, like maybe you have a view-only group for a certain group of users in your organization, you can create a view-only group. And then once you're in a folder here, when you go to apply permissions, when you say add people to folder, you can actually select one of those distribution groups. I think I have one for all employees. You can actually use that group as a user and apply them in bulk rather than going one by one and individually setting up permissions. So nice to keep everything organized, keep your permissions organized, and less time to apply those permissions to individuals. Bulk creation of folders and users. So when we have a couple, there's many ways to create folders within ShareFile. You can do them just manually. Here's the top level. If I go back into that folder here, you can create a folder manually. You can create folders through the folder template. We also have the desktop tool, the Windows and Mac ShareFile for the desktop, where you can drag and drop or create folders that way. We also have the ability to do a bulk folder creation and assign client users if you have a lot of external users that you want to set up and give permissions to. We do have customer or technical support that you can contact, and what they'll do is they'll give you kind of a template. You're essentially giving a list of folders you want to generate and the users that you'd like to assign them to, and support can do those in bulk for you. So that's also an option. But real quick, I'll show you kind of the nice feature here. This is on the right-hand side, this is my ShareFile for Windows plugin. This is my shared folder here. I can go directly into it, and here's that webinar folder. You have all the same functions that you do through the web, minus a few administrative functions, but I can create a folder here, new folder, and that's going to reflect on my account here once it propagates those changes. But then you can also, for instance, I can copy, this is from my local machine. I can copy all these over, paste them in here, and you can see that reflected within the web UI. So there are many different ways that you can do bulk functions like uploading files or creating folders there. And then on the user side, so whether you're creating employees or external client contacts, there are, the basic ways of creating employees is just giving the system a first name, last name, email address. Those are the required. If you wanted to add another, there's going to be an option to add another. So this will somewhat of a manual configuration to add users, but that option is there. We do also have the ability to import multiple users with an Excel file. If you click this option here, there's going to be a template, and essentially it is an Excel file with a couple columns here. Let me drag this up. So we've got email address, first name, last name, company. If you're adding your employees in bulk and you want to fill this out and have them created within your ShareFile account, that's an option there. But then we also have a tool called UMT, User Management Tool. So we have two flavors. We've got User Management Tool kind of standalone, and we also have one for policy or like role-based access. So you can create groups of users, assign them a policy for either permissions or storage locations, things like that, and sync those users directly from Active Directory. So I'll show you that briefly here. I won't go too detailed into it, but just to kind of show you the capabilities of it. So we do have policies within our admin settings, and this is something you would need to have support, or if you reach out to your customer success engineer, if you have one, we can enable this for you. But let me show you our policy section. So users, when you generate them, are going to have specific user access, and what we can do is we can create a policy for what this group of users will need. So let's just create a new policy real quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to give them some branding ability. So here under company account information, everything else is pretty much standard. And this is something as an administrator you'd want to come through here and kind of read through each one and see what these users will need. But for today's demonstration, we'll just do a default with the company account information. And let's call this one webinar access policy. So we've created a policy for user access. You can also create policies for file and folder management. And also if you do have multiple storage zones, if you've built out your own storage zone, you can configure a storage location. So if you wanted some users to be cloud and some users to be on-prem, it's really up to you. You can configure those policies here. But then from an actual UMT application standpoint, so I'm on a local lab here that I have, and I'm in Active Directory. I have a group called ShareFile users that I'm actually add a few users into. You can see I've got a HR user and an IT user, and you can create as many groups as you want, as many policies as you want. And the nice thing about this tool is that once we add it, so let's search for our ShareFile users group. So there's those two users that we wanted to add. We'll say add rule. So here we can either create a group rule for a distribution group, a user rule to actually import those users. Today we're going to do both. We're going to just create a distribution group and a user group to sync those users. And here's that access policy that we had on our account. So I'll go ahead and select that. And the nice thing about this tool is if you do utilize it, when a user is deactivated within your Active Directory, and the next time this tool syncs, you can set it up task scheduler or sync, it will actually disable the access if they're disabled in Active Directory. So we'll go ahead and save that. Go back to our dashboard here. We'll take a look at our rules. So there's the ShareFile users group. We'll refresh this. There's the two users that we're creating, and we're creating a group for ShareFile users, and we'll go ahead and commit. So we'll close out of our server there. Now if we go into our people section, you can see those two users have been set up. If we navigate into one of them here, you can see they're being assigned the webinar access policy that we assigned to them. And they've already got all the access they need. So this really minimizes kind of the time it takes to set up users. If if you're an IT administrator, if you've already got all these users set up in Active Directory, this makes it very easy and clean to set all those users up. And then the one thing I will show here, I did mention it, that it will disable a user, which is pretty important. If you've got somebody leaving the organization, and their access is being turned off within your organization's Active Directory. If I were to disable this user here and go back into the tool, and let's just refresh and commit it without scheduling it, you can see it already detected that it's disabling that user. And the next time that this UMT tool runs, we'll go back to our users. You can already see that this IT user is grayed out and they no longer have access to ShareFile. So the next thing we wanted to touch on, I just wanted to briefly talk about the ShareFile API. So ShareFile does allow you to configure our API if you wanted to bring some of the ShareFile functions into your own application. Maybe you have some custom scripts that you want to run. We do have a API page, which is going to be api.sharefile.com. This is where you can register for a key. You can log in and take a look at some of the sample functions that you can do. Let me go ahead and log in here. I'll briefly show. So for instance, just going in, you can take a look at some of the calls. You can look at what it will return. If you wanted to, get a list of users here and just see kind of the JSON that it pulls back, we can run it here and see kind of the sample of what you get back and what it's capable of. We also have, if you want to learn more about it or ask some questions, we do have under support.sharefile.com, we do have a community page. If you come to community, we do have an API developers section. If you start to get into it and you have some feedback or just want to ask a couple questions, we do have some support representatives, and I believe some of our engineers monitor this as well if you have any questions. But in addition to that, we also do have the ShareFile SDK, and this is going to actually link to our ShareFile GitHub page where you can download the SDKs. We also have some great information here, some sample scripts if that's what you're looking to accomplish here, just to get some ideas of what it's capable of. All that information that can be found here. So that's pretty much it for the efficiency side. What Tepe showed earlier, if your organization is okay with sending documents out publicly, without any type of authentication, having those options there are nice, or you can restrict them completely. Or maybe you just want to keep them on, but you want to give the default permission or the default level of login. And if they want to send something without any login, they can. But that's good stuff, yeah. And you can change those for request settings. You can change those settings to be different than the share settings.
Let's show them some of the folder settings. For example, under more options, you can see the different functions that are available in your folder as an admin. So, if you do items were deleted inside of a folder, you can always go into like the recycle bin. And right here, if you go into recycle bin there, that's going to show you files deleted just in this particular folder, right? So, and also, that's different than the recycle bin that you see on the left-hand side.
Yep. Yeah,
Oh,
because it's still showing here because I was the one who I was the one who deleted them,
yeah.
and I was the one who created them as well. So, but yeah, the other thing to take note of there is within the more options is the activity log, and that's only going to be available to admins of this folder. So under the people section here, this person here, this drones over Raleigh user does not have admin, so they would not see the activity log. So But this is a great place for admins on the folder to go to just kind of view and just audit what's going on in a folder. This is similar information to what shows up on the reports if you're generating um, reports against the account or a certain folder. This is the kind of information that will show up. Yep,
And earlier, we mentioned how the some of the settings are only defaults, and you can go into the particular folders and change the settings. So, Greg, if you go back one page and just go under More Options and do Edit Advanced Folder Settings, this is where you're going to see the settings for that particular folder. So we mentioned that the retention policy you can set a default for the folders, but if you need to go and change it, you would go into the root level, as in the topmost level folder in your ShareFile account, and then you would
right.
change the retention policy there if needed.
Let me actually set one. Yeah. So if
Yeah.
I go in and um, so it's set to after 7 days. Let's make sure that saves. And then I'm at the root level here. If I go create a folder, by the way, you can create a folder with a folder template at the start or at the folder generation level. So you can see that file retention policy has been applied.
Yeah.
But like Chepe said, you can go back in here and you wanted to change this. This is a special folder you want to be for long-term storage. You can simply change it.
So connectors are if you wanted to add um, other storage solutions that you have to your ShareFile account. So like Greg right here, he's adding Google Drive to his ShareFile account. And what it does is it allows him to see the Google Drive content directly from within ShareFile. So if he goes to the folder section now, you'll see the Google Drive there. And if he clicks it, he's going to be asked to authenticate first, just to enable the function. But once he does, he'll have Google Drive within ShareFile, and then he can um, basically do the same things that you do within ShareFile with Google Drive.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a one directional thing. Like you can go into your Google Drive and you can share documents out, but I don't think so. You won't be able to like if I were in a folder and I wanted to copy, if I had some files I wanted to copy or move, um, you won't have the ability to like move them into your Google Drive. It's really kind of it's to retrieve files and send files out from Google Drive.
Right.
Just keep that in mind. Yep. And kind of going back to the distribution group um, conversation, you know, when I added that connector, if you wanted to be, um, if you wanted to give only a certain subset of users access to, OneDrive or Google Drive, you can use those distribution groups that you created to actually assign the connector. So if you didn't want to just blanket give everyone access to bring things in from Google Drive, you can create a distribution group just for that access.
And then if you also have on-prem storage, like the storage zone controllers, you can do network shares connectors as well too.
Connection Manager is going to give you any third-party connectors that you've set up. We do have a QuickBooks integration, Salesforce. So we recently added payment options like Stripe. So these are going to be available here to manage those connections. And I believe Stripe is going to be, it might be for a certain plan type, I believe,
Yeah.
right? That's going to be our
Yeah.
industry advantage.
And most of these features, again, are going to be within that projects function, that projects feature that we've been rolling out. And that is mostly a premium or industry advantage feature.
Yeah. So projects and the signature feature is going to be premium or higher. So, those of you on the call today, you may not see those, but they are features that you can get with ShareFile. if you wanted to add them. As an administrator, if you're either were given administrative functionality or you are the account owner, I'd recommend just going through the admin section, settings section. Just go through and click on the security tab and go through each option just to see, because there are we could spend all day going through each one of these, but some of these are going to be really specific um, to your organization, maybe your security best practices, what you want to set up in terms of device security or security alerts or the login policy. It's really up to you how you want to configure those, but definitely recommend going through them.
The last thing I did want to mention was the resource center in the bottom right. Um, if you have a customer success engineer, you'll see your person right there. So, for example, that's Greg, and you can get in touch with us using the link right there.
We thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, folks.